Guess who's live?
We're live. Welcome to the next stop on your journey from paycheck to pension. If you're ready to take your finances to the next level, you're in the right place. It's time to take control of your future starting now, and we're doing it live. Hi, we're the Stidhams, and our goal is to help you get self-directed. It's the tax-free income that will shape your legacy. It's wealth, time, and the freedom you deserve. What you're about to learn will enable you to make confident and strategic moves. It means gaining complete control to invest in what you want when you want. We've helped thousands of people just like you. And if they can do it, you can too. So we hope you're ready, because it's about time that your money started working for you. And we're so excited that you chose us to show you how.
Starting right now. Bomb, bomb.
And we're back. So thanks for patiently waiting while we recover whatever that was going around.
Bro.
Welcome back. We see some folks in here. See who we've got. Nathan, Frankie, Dalai Lama, Scott. Welcome everyone. So tonight we're going to ask a really important question. Now, this may rock your world. I'm going to tell you that when we first started talking about this, because we were actually going to do this on Sunday, I got a little upset. And the reason why I got upset was because this question, I don't know why anybody else hasn't asked this question. I'm not going to say that nobody has before, but I think the math that has been needed to have been done, you know what I mean, should have been done decades ago. And there was something that's tried and true and trusted and has been implemented, but it's also what has caused over 60% of Americans to unretire. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the equation and the solution on how to find out the answers to these questions. But the question that we're asking today is, how much do you need to retire, and how do you figure that out?
Yeah, and there's so much here, and I think this may be one of many lives that we kind of have to do on this subject, because I think how we step through this is very important. And you know me, I like to fire hose information, but I think this is one of those topics where I don't think the right move for me to do is to blow through this or fire hose through this information, because if you blink, you'll kind of miss some of the details here that I think are really the reason why everyone ends up poor, or
Right.
really the reasons why people are unretiring, or really the reasons why what you think you need for retire and what you actually need for retire might happen to be not just two different numbers, but two different thought processes. So I think this is a really interesting subject that I think hopefully we're able to do the due diligence around it to hopefully get that message across.
Yeah, I think this might piss some people off, because once you realize this has not been done this way and why it should have been done this way this whole time, you wish you could go back. But we're going to start with a little game. You guys ready? We'll start with a game. You guys got to participate to
It's a
win.
shock to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Donnell doesn't know about the game. Okay, so that's good. Yeah. Well, let's jump in. Let's get started.
Doom, 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 down.
We're going back
Is this
to
Tron?
reality. This is 80s. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds like horses.
No.
I'm just
Okay,
kidding. I'm just kidding.
You guys can hear us, right? Okay, we're going to
Yes.
start with some questions first. So let me pull up the comments so we can see people. Okay, a person living on $26,000 a year in 1983 would need how much to maintain that lifestyle in 2023?
So that's a 40-year difference.
Mm-hmm.
26,083.
It's like a 7-second delay, so we gotta wait for people to put it in the chat.
Yeah, no problem.
So get in
40
to
years.
the chat, y'all.
Let's see.
I don't see anybody guessing. Oh, okay. We got some guesses. Ooh, we got some close guesses. Y'all are good. Is this music too loud? Because don't laugh, Donnell. Just need to know
Don't
if it's
tell
too
me not
loud
to
for
laugh.
them. For them. Because I know you're laughing at me being distracted, but I'm not this time. I'm asking just as a
I I'm
courtesy to
I
them.
promise I'm not distracted. I promise.
Okay. All right. You guys ready? 86,000
So that's an additional 60 grand over the span of 40 years.
that you would need in order to maintain that lifestyle.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Next question. All right. But how much income were they told to aim for in 1983? This is the one. Yeah, Bobbyette, y'all were pretty good in here. On the money. How much were they
So
told to aim for? They were living off of 23,000. So if they were going to retire in 2023, what were they told that they needed to prepare for? Like, what was that number that they needed to be able to pull out every year as their distribution, right?
and I would work backwards into that number, right? It would be if I'm making 20, what was it, 26 today, and my whole objective is to be able to make my current income in retirement. How can to me, it's a work backwards into that number.
But what's the traditional way of handling this?
4% rule.
Right, and it's 10 times your income is what your number needs to be, or something like that.
Right.
Okay, but we got some. The truth is, they don't know. They don't know the number of the income that they should aim for. They know the number. Thank you, Kenny. They know the number the total number that should be in their account when they retire, but they're never told what their income is going to be.
Right. The Trinity study.
Trinity study. I should have put a new song in there, but we're just going to roll with it.
Is someone
Trinity-
distracted?
No.
Okay.
The Trinity study was done in when?
Well, I mean,
What was the year?
I don't know that I know this number. I'm going to say 94 or 92. 92.
Ooh. Okay, we got some answers coming in. 1998. Trinity study is an important study, but just think of where we are, that it wasn't even done until 1998. So the IRAs and 401ks came out like from the 70s, right? It took till 1998 just to be able to have this study done. So
Well, we've got a pretty intelligent audience, but I want to make sure the Trinity study, people even understand what that even means. So we don't have to do that now, but I want to make sure I make a note that let's first understand what is the Trinity study and why do I care if it was 1998 when the Trinity study was done?
Yeah.
So we can make a note of that. Keep going.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So what did people do? What about the people who started saving for their retirement in 2003? The Trinity study comes out in 1998.
Right.
We know that this is about retirement, this study, right? This is making some rules about retirement. So what happened to them? Like, what was the advice? What was the big trending advice for them?
So I think what needs to be stated around that is, why was the Trinity study even introduced? Well, the Trinity study came about because companies were moving away from pensions and moving towards this new formed retirement account called a 401k. And so as companies were transitioning away from pensions towards a 401k, some financial advisors, I think one financial advisor came about, wanted to better understand, hey, what do you need, one, to be able to retire, and two, how much income could you be able to take into retirement, since we no longer have this this pension which never runs out of money. You're transitioning into this 401k that has the potential to run out of money. So what do we do? How much income can you take so that you never run out of money? And so the Trinity study was a study to determine how much you could take, how much safe withdrawal, how much of a safe withdrawal you could take from your retirement account so that you don't run out of money by the end of, too much life at the end of your retirement, right?
Yeah.
And so what about people who started savings for retirement in 2003? Meaning what? Meaning, if I just started in 2003, the 4% rule or the Trinity study was just kind of put into play. And so now I know. Go ahead. Go ahead. I know. Yep. It slipped out. Sorry.
It's the 4% rule.
That's
That's
it.
it. I don't want you to give the answer away, but go ahead since you're
But there's so much
doing that.
context here because Trinity study is just a small piece of what we're talking about. The Trinity study is the study that allowed us to understand, hey, what should that safe withdrawal be so that you don't run out of money? And yes, it was determined in 1998 that it should be the 4% rule. But just as everything else has inflation impacted, just as everything else has shifted over time, just as everything else, your dollar in 1998 isn't the same in 2023, does the 4% rule still truly apply? But if you look at everyone's retirement system, Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, Fidelity, everyone still uses the results of this Trinity study or the 4% rule.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's play the games and then we can get to talking about it, okay? Because this guy's running his ass off. We need to give him a break. He's just been running it this whole time. Okay, ready, guys? So, when do they find out if they've had enough, when they have enough, or if they have enough? Say, people who are in 2003, they started saving for retirement then, and at what point? At what point do people find out if they had enough? Yeah, this guy is a marathon man, Nathan, for sure. Like, he's in shape. He's making me tired, matter of fact, because I don't run for fun. So I only run like if I'm on fire being chased by a dog. So this guy, he's inspiring. At retirement, 5 years before retire, not until they actually retire. Yes, all of those,
Right.
all of the above. When they are dead, pretty
When
much.
you ask,
Yeah,
when you ask,
when you go to sit down and start taking money out and then they say, oh, you need to downsize because you actually can't afford your lifestyle. So what could have been different? What could have been different for them to not have to meet that reality then, right? What could have been different? And I think that's kind of what we're talking about today. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Because the answer is math, not myths. It is they have had access to information and to be able to do the math for decades now, and people are still finding out in the same way as if that's the only option for them. And it's lazy. So we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about what is different. So that's the game. Thanks
math,
for
not
playing.
myths.
Yeah.
What do I
Whoa.
win?
What are we doing here? We are, see, why is it doing that again? No, it's not that. It's that I just put you on and I don't want it to automatically take me off. Well, I got a little note in there and tell them. So the point is that there is a better way. And we should not be surprised at this, time that we've spent. We've already invested the time. The time has already gone on, and so we should not be surprised, and we should know this answer. So my question to you is: if you were to ask 10 people in your life, whoever they are, if you were to ask them right now, how much in retirement income are they expecting? Would they expect? What would be their answer? And I think that is alarming enough that asking 10 people, I would willing to put money that 9.5 of those people, most of those people, would say they have no idea. They could tell you what's in an account. They could tell you how much they've saved or what the balance currently is. But if you ask them right now, what would be your retirement income at the point when you go to retire, they could not answer that question. Most people cannot, and I think you can. And so we are going to talk about the steps and how this is usually calculated. And then we're going to talk about how this could be different. Yeah?
Sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. Are you ready to jump over to the vibe board?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Do it. Then I'll pull up the wheel and we'll give some votes away for playing afterwards. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
So, how ready is America to retire? And I know this is a bit small, so I'll try to make it a little bit bigger as we go. But what Fidelity did, and I kind of appreciate the detail around this. Fidelity came up with a retirement preparedness measure, which kind of appreciate. And I appreciate it because it's something that I've never really thought about as far as retirement preparedness. Like, what does that even mean? And for them to actually apply a number to it, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of better understand what this number is and how it not just fits with us, but kind of share with you kind of where this may fit in your areas also. And one of the results that came out of this was 55% of Americans are now in the yellow, meaning 55% believe they have action required to be able to hit their retirement goal. And the question for you is, where do you fit? At area being less than 65%, being somewhere around the significant action needed, meaning, hey, not only do maybe I have a retirement account with my employer, maybe I have some Roth IRA or 403b that's hanging out there, but not fully understanding how much is in it, what I need to retire, what that dollar amount looks like over time, and what's my time horizon. Like, there's so many questions here that need to be addressed. 12% feeling like they are actually on track or in a good place, and majority of the people in this space are your boomers, are your individuals who are either on their way into retirement or already fully in retirement. I kind of feel like they they're in a solid position as to where they are retirement wise based off all of the factors involved. And then my generation, those of us who are either headed into some form of retirement or are heavily building that nest egg to be able to put themselves in a position so that they can fire their job or transition into a different position with the company that they're with, or whatever the case may be. The Gen Xers, we are somewhere in that fair to good. It shows 71% here, and that 71% being we're in this area. And our Gen Y, the generation before me, generation, I'll call it a little bit before you as well, sweetheart, if I'm not mistaken. We're talking about that. Hey, I have no idea where I'm headed, what I'm doing, where I'm going as it relates to my retirement and what needs to take place. So as we better understand how different generations plan to fund retirement, what I found interesting about this is this didn't surprise me. We've got baby boomers out there that are heavily dependent upon Social Security and expected to be there. I think the piece that I expected to be a little bit higher was pensions as it relates to baby boomers. But this piece I'm not really shocked at. I think what jumped out to me here is 30% of Gen Xers believe that their 401k is going to be how they end up moving into retirement. And again, based off the game that we just finished playing, as it relates to the Trinity study and using the 4% rule to understand how your retirement account is actually determined, what that told me was it is very clear that Gen Xers don't necessarily understand how retirement account is being determined, because we've been conditioned to just do what we've been told. And that is, hey, I work for this company. I've been with this company for a certain period of time. I've been contributing to my 401k during this time. And I know by the time I hit retirement age, I will be okay. So I would expect that by the time I hit that retirement mark, that majority of my retirement income is going to come from my company's 401k. And just like that runner in that example, but when do you learn you may not have enough? But when do you learn that, you know what, that 875,000 you have in your company's 401k that you think is sufficient enough for you to continue to be able to sustain your 6-figure a month income? You don't learn till you hit 50. You don't learn till you hit 47. You don't learn till you hit 52. That 845,000 or that 900,000 you have in your 401k, which sounds like a lot, equates to somewhere around $30,000, $35,000 a year in income. So if you're currently living off a six-figure income and you have what you consider to be a significant amount in your retirement, you learn that based off the 4% rule, that is not enough. That is not sufficient enough for you to be able to sustain in retirement. And you don't learn that until it's too late. And so this to me tells me that, yep, that's in line, that people around my age don't know that the vehicle that they are currently putting all of their eggs in that one basket may not get them there. Now, this piece, I'm not shocked at either, meaning Social Security being a large part of what our retirement is going to be. I think it has to be. So I think that's an expectation that I'm walking into retirement with, and I think that I'm not shocked that that's kind of high on this list. Now, as it relates to the generations before me, millennials and beyond, I find this pretty interesting, and it's specifically the personal savings part. There is an understanding that somehow that high yield savings account that might be producing 3% return year after year, or that a traditional savings account you have that may be sitting somewhere around 0.04, 0.06% interest, somehow is going to help you sustain through retirement. And that's kind of scary to me. Not saying that it's not possible, but 9 times out of 10, when you just simply look at the rule of 72, it taking 1,200 years for you to be able to allow that $10,000 in your savings to double just one time is not enough for you to be able to even remotely believe that that's going to come somewhere close for you to be able to use as retirement. So I think that was the piece that kind of scared me in this visual here. The 28% as it relates to the 401k, that's that conditioning part. We've all been conditioned to believe that our company's retirement account will help us get to retirement.
Man,
As far as this visual here, as far as the average annual household spending, it kind of confused me a little bit. I think the piece that I agree with, based off your age being under 55, are my household expenses expected to be higher than in retirement age 75 plus? Should my household expenditures be less? I think the short answer to that question is yes. I don't know that I necessarily agree with these numbers specifically. I think it's kind of arbitrary. If you make a decent income, if you make $70,000 in household expenses, tells me that your income should be somewhere upwards of around 85 to a six-figure income. But what if you're not making that dollar amount? So I think that was the piece that kind of jumped out to me. So I don't necessarily agree with the specific values, but in short, would I expect my household spending to be more at 55 and younger compared to 75 and older? I think the short answer to that question is yes. So for me, that kind of aligns. But other than that, I didn't really take much from this presentation. What about you? What are your thoughts?
well, I have some thoughts.
I know you do.
This isn't a representation of that you just spend less because you get older.
Right.
This is what I want to make really important. The point that I think is important is that you can only spend less. It's an average of less, but to somebody would just put in the chat, and I don't have it up, about the Ramsey downsizing. It's not just Ramsey, it's everybody. Who preaches this. And this is why, because they don't have the money. So go to the next one though, because this is what cannot be, it can't be argued.
Well, and I personally, the same way I disagree with the one before, I disagree with this one as well. Like, I agree with the bars and the direction that they're going. I agree that as I get older, it costs more to insure me, and so therefore I'm paying more. But is that difference $2,000? Meaning the difference between my age today and my age 20 years from now, the insurance costs between those two on average being $2,000, I question that.
So I don't, because we can't control big pharma. There are
No
industries
doubt.
out here, the medical industry being one of them, we can't control. There is no cap. There's nobody regulating how much they're charging people. So if this is what it looks like today, and by the way, we got these figures, these graphs from Fidelity. So these are coming from trusted sources, right? They went out and they put
Did the
together
homework.
this, yeah. So we didn't just make this up. The point is, if that's what it is today, imagine what it's going to be in 20 years from now. And that's the problem, is that if we're planning today and you're using the numbers that we have today to give you some idea of what it's going to be 20 years from now, or for some people 40 years because they're trying to get started early, you are going to be severely disappointed, because there are just industries and there are things that we cannot control. On the last one, when they were talking about household expenses or cost of living, right, going down, that's also a farce, because the cost of real estate in general goes up. If you have to downsize, you just paid off your mortgage, you worked at being debt free, you worked hard, 30-year mortgage, now it's paid off. And now you have to go downsize to a smaller house that you're probably going to end up paying twice as much for that you did the house that you're selling now.
Right. And I think that's it's the same way here. Like agree with the graph going up, meaning medical expenses are going to be increasing, but I think the number is drastically low. I think the number would be larger than this. No different than, to your point, you spent 30 years to pay off this home. You no longer have a mortgage and now you are downsizing. The goal would be, hey, I'm downsizing to a home, and this home that I no longer am paying for would hopefully pay for this home that I'm moving into, only to learn that you end up getting less home, but you're paying double the price for, simply
Right.
because of where we are, from an inflation perspective and the
Right.
cost of living.
And let's say you sell your house. Like if we were to sell the house that we're in right now, obviously our whole family lives here and it's just me and you. And we go buy some uh maybe a patio home or something smaller, like a 2 bedroom, whatever it is. And we're downsizing, right? This house, being that 6 people live here versus a house where 2 people will live, right?
Right.
Different.
Right.
So I would hope that this house would pay for that house for sure. But that's not what this was. Most people are paying off their home and they're making debt free, or the concept of being debt free and paying off their home. They're making this a priority because they say they want this asset to pass on, right? They want this to be some way, in shape or form, a part of their legacy. And the problem is the way that you end up having to leverage it at the very end strips all that you've been working for away.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that I don't think we are doing the math far enough ahead to really see the bigger picture. It just seems easier to just keep going to the next milestone. And when we're doing it that way, we're not realizing that if we would have done the math all the way forward, we may have made different decisions in the beginning and along the way to say, okay, we're not going to wait until we're old and gray to downsize. We may start to make those moves, or we may stay in our starter home a little bit longer so that we can front fund our retirement plan, so that we can have enough and we can do whatever we want, because we will have more than enough. And we're going to show you how we think this number should go, because I believe the 4% rule should just it should just die. It should just be taken off. We don't need it anymore. This was 1998. This study was done. And since then, people are unretiring because they don't have enough. So we can't use this anymore. Now, some people say, oh, we changed it to the 5% rule. Doesn't matter, because the math that they're using in the beginning to help people have some sort of target, right, that they need to aim for, to be able to draw off 4 or 5%, hell, make it 7%. Who cares? The point is, it doesn't matter if the target is all messed up in the first place, right?
Yeah, and it's what are we aiming for? We're basing our 4% income that we need in the future based off today's dollar amount, and
Right.
that's the problem.
Yes.
It is not about today's dollar amount. It is, what is this dollar worth in the future?
Right.
What is the cost of living in the future? What is inflation in the future? And does this dollar amount that I'm goaling for for me to be able to retire, is it based off that, or is it based off today?
Right.
And that's the part that, again, there's a lot of data here. We can engulf ourselves in these numbers all we want, but these numbers are skewed because it's based off today and not based off what it needs to be in the future.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I'll let you back at it.
So, and then changes in expenses. And what I found interesting here was, again, based off age ranges, 55 to 64, 65 to 74, 75 and above, housing. What confused me here was, in this range, the annual housing expenses decreased as I got older. And that I think conceptually that makes sense, because if the house is smaller or there's not as many people in it, the expenses in this home should be less. However, when you come here, and again, this is all from the same trusted source, changes in expenses by age, housing from ages between age 55 to 75, the housing expenses increased, which, again, this threw me off. So I'm still confused about this because I don't get it. Transportation, I get it. It makes sense. Transportation decreases as I get older. Healthcare increases as I get older. And the pension expenses, the expenses associated with Social Security, the expenses associated with putting away for your 401k, the expenses associated with building your nest egg, decrease as you get older, because now at this point is when you start drawing off that Social Security and that pension, versus here, the expense of being able to contribute to it. So I agree. This right here, I challenge, because the math just doesn't make sense to me. Either the expenses increase as you get older or they don't. But what this is showing in this visual is it kind of counters what the one before it was saying. And then here,
But this one right here,
make
this
it
is the
small enough
one.
for a moment. 50% of retirees retired earlier than they would like. Let me move it over some. 50% of retirees retired earlier than they would like. So I want to kind of zoom in a little bit on what that looks like. Again, 50% of retirees retired earlier than they would like. What does that look like? Or what does that breakdown look like? Well, mainly health issues being a large piece of it. And then the next one that we can identify being laid off or let go. So health issues, laid off, and then this 23% is none of the above, meaning there was some other extenuating circumstance that required an individual to retire earlier. So again, peeling this back a little bit, if we go back and we focus on what is that dollar amount you need to be able to retire? You've identified it as being a six-figure income on an annual basis. Well, how much do you need inside of your retirement account to be able to achieve that six-figure income into retirement? Well, if all of a sudden you're placed in a position, if 50% of us, out of the two people on this live, one of us is going to have to retire earlier, which means if the goal was a six-figure income and I needed X amount of dollars in my retirement, we are not going to get there. The data says that one of us is not going to get there, right? And so what are those reasons why? Again, health issues, meaning I physically am unable to do so, or the job that I thought that I was doing everything I was supposed to. I was putting in the amount of percentage that I was supposed to inside of my 401k, and my job decided it didn't need me anymore. The leverage that I thought I had with this income long term doesn't exist anymore. So I think that's pretty significant. And this right here deserves a bit of explanation, but the moral of the story is this range speaks to what is the breakdown of your current retirement. And this is coming from Fidelity. So this is looking at traditional retirement planning. Traditional retirement planning saying you have some type of IRA, 401k, 403b, TSP, government 457 plan, and the mix of what your retirement dollars are invested in is some mix between a volatile market-related stocks versus stable bonds. So what is the mix between stocks and bonds inside of your portfolio? And based off that mix it kind of determines how long your money is going to last. Green being your money is lasting within that first 5 to 10 year, 20 year, 30-year period. But as you move down here into 50 years in retirement, it starts to get sketchy. And this breakdown here is, what is that mix between bonds compared to stocks? Meaning I've got 100% bonds, 100% stocks, zero bonds, compared to zero stocks and 100% bonds. And that mix being 50-50 is the most, I'll call it, consistent place where you get the longest use out of your dollar.
Like the safety sweet spot.
Absolutely. So, and if you think of traditional retirement planning, all of us with traditional retirement accounts have what's called a target date fund. Based off our current age and the age we plan to retire, the mix in which our retirement account is distributed is based off what that target date is. And so that mixture of stocks versus bonds, that mixture of, I'll call it aggressive stock purchases compared to less risky bonds, that mix is dependent upon how much time we have left. So if you're of, I think the drawing of that looks something like this. I think I can do it. Give me just a moment. I think it looks something like this. Yeah, I think it looks something like, come on. And what that's saying is the growth inside of your retirement account is somewhere between, I'll call it 7 to, let's call it 12% over time. And as you get older, so if this is age 25 and this is age 75, as you get older, that mix between what your mutual funds, stocks, and bonds are is a bit more aggressive when you're younger, but when you transition to age, I'll call it 45 to maybe 60, that transition of what that mix looks like starts to move from highly aggressive, super aggressive to more moderately aggressive, to the point where, hey, when you're ready to start taking that retirement income, you've reduced down to that mix to where what you're making inside of your account is somewhere around that 4% rule, so that the distributions that you're taking out of your retirement can be replenished by the growth. So that mix shifts as you get older. That mix shifts, kind of reducing that risk from less stocks and more bonds, so that your money can last longer. And for a lot of us who maybe we started late, maybe we only have 10 years left in retirement, it forces us to become a bit more risky in this space, meaning we need more of a 80-20, 70-30 mix, because we need our money to last longer, or we need to accumulate more income sooner so that we could retire around a decent age. This is a pretty powerful table. I'd never really seen it before, so it took me a while to kind of digest it. But the moral of the story is, this is everybody's retirement account. Everyone fits in this category. We all start out aggressive and we all move to less aggressive stocks and bonds so that we can preserve the amount of money that we have inside of our retirement. And when we're in this area, this determines how many of us end up having to go back to work.
Yeah, well, that part, that's one right here.
And what this is saying is, since 1990, adults older than the age of 65 is the fastest growing population of homeless. And so what that's ultimately saying is, Americans with debt has risen from 38% in 1990 up to about 63% now. Well, what's the correlation between the fact that Americans are having more and more debt now versus back in 1990? Well, that is the direct correlation between why the ages 65 and older represent the fastest growing group of homelessness. Because we're more and more in debt, and therefore we can't pay our bills, and therefore we don't have the ability to be able to pay for what it is we owe.
Yeah, well, on that note, though, because there are so many people who are older with debt, meaning It could have even have been that you achieved debt free at some point in your life, but as you start to get older and you're going through this, some of them are re-entering back into debt because they just don't have enough. And so here's where a reverse mortgage starts to come in too. A lot of these options for older people who don't have the opportunity to make the incomes that they had before because they know that there's a problem. And because they can't go back in time and fix the problem, now we have to start coming up with solutions. Unfortunately, though, by this time it's too late. And by this time, these solutions are just draining your legacy. This is the saddest thing because you work so hard all of the days that you thought you were maybe missing a basketball game or a baseball game or your cheer the cheer competition or whatever it was to land this big account because it was going to make this difference. It was going to make somehow, it was all going to make sense in the end, right? But if you're not putting it into the right vehicle and you don't have the right target. Somebody said in the chat, I think it was how to invest for yourself. He made a good point earlier. He was saying like shoot for the moon and at least you'll land among the stars, right?
Right.
But the majority of people are just shooting for the roof. And they're still falling, but they're just not getting high enough because the target is not far enough. And we don't have systems in place, mindsets in place to help us make these decisions from a place, not a place of lack, like, oh, dang it, I have to put into my retirement. Like I get to strategize so that I can retire early. Matter of fact, I don't have to wait till I'm 65 if I know how to do this and I know how to strategize. That's the powerful part.
Well, and there's so much conditioning here because what I struggle with as it relates to majority of these slides is what have we been told? Like from the time we were born, from the time we entered the workforce, what have we been taught? What have we been educated? No one had told me that I was doing anything wrong.
Right. That's the point. Yeah, is that even if you go to meet with your HR, you go to meet with a financial advisor, the question that they're really asking you is, what do you feel comfortable investing? What I'm hoping here, we'll come back in just a second. What I'm hoping is that what we can do now is change those questions. It should not be, what do you feel comfortable investing? That's not how you get to the goal. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. You can't say, this is what I have left over every month. This is what I could kind of make out of what I have available to me. I could afford to do $300 a month or $500 a month. And what can you make with that? I can make you homeless when you're older.
Everyone ends up poor.
Yeah, that's what I can do. Matter of fact, does that sound good? Because I promise you would make some different decisions if you knew how this was going to plan out and you had a different recipe for coming up with these numbers and understanding what it is that you need to put in to know that you're good.
And we are all guilty of this. I'm guilty of it. When I'm sitting down with an individual and I ask the first question, what's the goal? I speak to the 70-20-10. I speak to 80-20. I speak to 60-30, whatever. What I'm doing is I'm saying, what are your expenses? What are your debts? And then whatever's left over, let's use that dollar amount to now build your nest egg. Use that dollar amount to kind of help you understand where you need to go. And what you're saying is this equation is flip-flopped.
Yeah.
It is not expenses, debts, and then what's left. It is, what is that dollar amount you're aiming for? And you need to learn, I need to learn, we need to learn how to live off the remainder.
Yeah. Yes. How do you find the percent versus deciding what the percent is and then investing that amount? So we're going to flip the math in reverse, actually, from how most people do it. And you're going to see why it's more powerful this way. These will change the conversations that you have with your kids. These will change the conversations that you probably should have with your parents. This will change the conversation you are having with yourself every payday. I believe that anybody watching this will not be able to unsee this.
And I think we it's saying it once isn't enough. Saying it twice isn't because I don't know that I personally am doing a good enough job of explaining the sense of urgency around this subject.
Yeah.
Again, we have all been conditioned to believe what's left is what I end up using to be able to build my nest egg for whatever that future dollar amount is I need. When the equation has to be flip flop, it has to start with what is the number? Because the number that I believe it to be today has to be based on what the value of a dollar is in the future. If it's not, regardless of what I say the dollar amount is today that I need, I am falling short. Let's go back to the running man during the game. In 1983, that $26,000 needed to be what in 20 or was it 2022 in 2003? What did that dollar amount need to be between 19 and 20 years later? What did that dollar amount need to be? And I am confident, again, it was kind of stated in the game. The person that was planning for what he needed in 2003 had no idea as to what that number needed to be. And that is exactly what's happening right now. We are perpetuating, we are continuing the same lack. And what's going to end up happening is we're putting ourselves in a position to where we all end up poor.
Yes. Yeah,
So
exactly.
this visual, sweetheart, I think is also pretty powerful. At least for me, it was the reasons for unretiring, and I'll zoom in a little bit more to kind of explain, or at least to show a little bit of what's being said here. But again, it's reasons for unretiring, reasons for re-entering the workforce. What are those reasons? And these reasons are broken out between men and women, and this bothered me when I saw it, and I'm wondering if you guys feel something similar. Majority of men unretire due to emotional and social reasons. 45% say, hey, the reason men are unretiring is due to emotional and social circumstances. Versus women, the majority of women are unretiring, 48%. Majority of women are unretiring simply due to not having enough. So men aren't unretiring because they don't have enough. Men are unretiring because, from a status perspective, I don't feel good. I don't feel good around the fact that I don't have enough to be able to make ends meet. So it's not financial, isn't the reason why. It's emotional. Versus women are entering back into the workforce. Why? Because either they have had to reduce their status where they were to go take care of someone else, or they placed themselves in a position to where they couldn't continue making the income they were so that they could take care of their spouse. And as a result, they are now placed in a position where they have to become the primary breadwinner. And so it is specifically math for women, and it's specifically emotional for men. And I don't know how to feel about this, but it bothers me.
Can you turn your mic down a touch? We're getting a
Am I yelling?
yeah. You know, we can turn you down just a little bit. That way,
No, I think you said it. Stop yelling.
yeah. Hey everyone, that's Frankie. Frankie in the house, and she's in here to keep us in line. But I think
I can stop yelling. That's it's simple enough. But my point is this, though. What is the reasoning behind why we are feeling the need to where this 70-year-old lady needs to start delivering pizzas after she
right.
did her part? She worked in that cafeteria for 35 plus years. She did everything that she was supposed to do, only to learn she did not have enough to retire and had to re-enter the workforce so that she could start delivering these pizzas.
Right. And I'm gonna say this part right here, the difference of why there's a majority men and a majority women on this pie chart. There is a reason why these majorities exist. And part of it is because not only can we not control what happens to us, but we can't control what happens to other people. And oftentimes, it's not always, because
You're right.
we've seen male caregivers. Your dad was one, right?
You're right. You're right.
And so we see that people, whether they're already retired and they have to become a caregiver, which could mean being a caregiver to someone like a parent or a child who does not have the resources, and so therefore your resources get spent in that equation too. But whether if it's in the beginning of a family or towards the end of life in somebody in the family, that caregiving position is often the reason why a lot of women have to end up going back to work, because they learned then it's not enough, or they had a retirement from their husband or from, and once all of those healthcare expenses exhausted that, now they're left here and they're left with less resources. And not everybody's situation set up right, but here's the point. If you had just enough, or if you had an amount that you could stretch to be enough, and this was the promise, right? This was the 10-year promise. No, you guys are going to be okay. And there's somebody telling you you're going to be okay. How can you do the math to make sure that you're not just trusting someone, because they're not going to be there when you're not okay?
Right. Right. What
They're not
vehicles
coming.
exist today? Like if you were to go to your favorite financial institution, what vehicles exist today to help answer that question?
They're saying you could shout it from the rooftops. This is important.
But still, what vehicles exist?
Yeah.
Other than the calculator that says if you put in this dollar amount, this is the income that you'll be able to receive. Other than a calculator, what vehicles exist? What tools exist today for you to be able to dissect what is required of you in the future based off whatever that dollar amount or math would be?
Yeah.
What exists?
Well, there isn't a calculator, but there are a lot that people used. There's a lot that from trusted sources, and they all use the same equation. Are you wanting to go to use one right now?
Well, let's see what is the next one. I don't remember what the next one was. Yeah, so that trusty equation that is used is that 4% rule, right? That trusted equation that is used for all of those financial institutions as to how much you are required or how much you need going into retirement or to be able to successfully retire is all based off that 4% rule.
Yeah.
And that 4% rule, if you even for the calculators, even like Vanguard has a 4% rule, a calculator is based off the 4% rule, and it takes into consideration inflation. It does.
Well,
It does.
it's the 4% rule takes into consideration.
I am talking about the Vanguard calculator has an inflation component built into it. It is just not sufficient. It's not, but it is there.
Pull it up. I'm calling Cap.
Yeah, I don't know that I have it.
Can you pull it
Hold
up?
on. Hold on,
Okay.
I'm working on it.
I don't know. This may be me just trying to rabbit hole because I'm distracted by what you said. If anybody else doesn't want to see it, oh, Bobbyette said pull it up. Pull it up. We need to see it. We need the receipts.
Hold on.
We need them. And this is why I'm saying that, because the majority of people who use the majority of calculators in this way, they are taking inflation into consideration as a part of the growth strategy. So knowing that it will grow, then you'll have enough to start taking 4%. Then you'll have enough at this point. If you put this in and it grows to this amount, then you'll probably have enough, and it'll keep growing enough that it won't implode, or you won't deplete your funds right before you pass away. So that's the idea, but it's not actually taking into consideration that the car industry, anybody who's recently purchased a vehicle, even a used vehicle, knows that that's gone out of control, and that's not 3%. Try telling anybody who's purchased a vehicle in this past, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years, that they've gone up 3% with inflation. Well, actually, it's 7%, but let's just say that 7%. No, they have doubled. A car you could buy $500, like a beater for your first car, right? $1,000, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 was a pretty good amount to buy a teenager a first car. That car now is easily $7,000. Tell me I'm lying. Anybody who has been shopping knows that is the thing. Yep, Dalai Lama, rents have doubled in the past year. These are industries that we cannot control. Therefore, you can't consider this with inflation. Like, what are they considering? The cost of eggs? Even let's talk about that. The freaking cost of eggs. What happened with that? Some of these industries we don't have control over. What we do have control over is making sure that the number that we're at least trying to hit makes some sense. It's got to make sense, y'all. You ready?
Yep. So what I pulled up was the
hold on.
Vanguard calculator, and what there is not a location on the Vanguard calculator that says anything about inflation. But what I know is this number that, okay, and I didn't put these numbers in. This kind of was already there. So 21 years of age till age 67, make $35,000 a year. You can either save a certain percentage of your income or not, whatever you decide to do. But the end result ends up being, hey, the estimated monthly expenses. And again, I didn't put any values in here. But what I was looking for was, is there an actual statement made? And I just remember reading about this. And that is, there is a consideration or an expectation around what that inflation rate looks like. The problem is it is not consistent. The problem is it does not carry through to what the inflation rate will be in the future. It's based off what the inflation rate is today. It does not take into consideration what that dollar amount looks like 20 years from now when you need that dollar amount. So in this case, if it was, I'm saving, let's call it $1,000 a month.
Yeah, 21 years old, plan to retire at 67. This is like the best case scenario for any financial advisor or anybody to use, because you've got tons of time for your money to grow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Come on. There it is.
Oh, wait.
There it is. So in essence, what that's saying is, okay, by age 67, you would have accumulated about $895,000 in estimated retirement dollars. But what does that translate to as it relates to income?
Income. That's
And again,
the important part.
The part is income. It's not about net worth. $895,000 sounds like a lot. $1 million sounds like a lot, but it translates to something less or somewhere around 4%. 4% of this dollar amount equates to about, what is that, $2,900 a month in monthly income?
In how many
Is that
years?
sufficient?
Hold on. In 45 years?
In 45 years.
More than 45 years from now, nobody could live off of that right now. So how the heck is somebody going to live off of that 45 years from now? Again, 40 years ago, $26,000 income is the same today as $86,000 income.
And every vehicle we use, every tool we use to determine how much we need into retirement, how much we need in the future to be able to sustain ourselves through retirement, all follow this process.
No.
All follow this math. All follow this same calculation.
That dog don't hunt. It don't. So now let's move on to the next piece of this, because this is where, how do you get the number? How do you do the math? Because if you can't go to these places, these calculators, and get an idea of what you should have, and these are trusted sources, and this is how the math has been done, but you see why people go, yeah, okay, I'll put in $1,000 a month for 40 something years. That's a long time. That's a lot of money, right? To only have barely $3,000 in income. Oh, and don't forget that we didn't say that this was tax-free.
Oh, it is absolutely not tax-free. Again, if we're talking about a 401k, you're putting in pre-tax dollars here. And so what that means is that all $895,000 is going to be taxed at whatever the rate is when it's time to start taking a distribution.
Tom said those $7.89 eggs are pretty good. Yeah, eggs are egging right now. All right, so let's show them how to do the math and how they can find this number themselves. Our goal is to help you become self-directed. You can do this, and you can reverse this whole process so that you can aim at an appropriate target and have an idea of what it is that you need to have. This will help you help your kids or anybody else. And I've been seeing this comment in the chat all night long. Kids, our youth needs to have this information right now, today. If we were doing a 21 years old, what would you have at 67? Why can't we be showing them 21 years old? What could you be having by 45? Then what could this look like if you keep feeding a machine? And what does that mix need to look like in order for you to have something that is safe and secure? This doesn't mean you have to, there's one way of doing it, because there's a ton of ways to 10. There's still a ton of ways to 10. But if what they're telling you is there's a ton of ways to 10, but they're only showing you how to get to 5, and they're telling you that 5 is 10. That's exactly what this is. I tried to come up with a creative way of showing that earlier, but it didn't happen. So we're going to do it again, and I'll come up with it then. Okay, go back to the vibe board.
Sure.
Okay.
And again, this may be a little bit challenging to see, so I'll make it bigger where I can.
Oh, you know what? You know what would help, because I want them to see it. Can you go full vibe board, and then I'll just bring the vibe board only up?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. That way they can see it.
Let's see here.
No? Okay, here we go. Why does it keep doing that?
Why are there technical difficulties?
Yeah.
It's because we're on live. That's why.
Oh, dang it. No. Here we go.
Let's see.
Frankie, are you pressing buttons? I think she is. Okay. All right. Here we go. You guys can see that now, right?
So, a couple things, and let's go back to 2020, 2003. So in 2003, if you were making $51,000, 51,747 in income, and again, having expenses, these are numbers that we kind of came up with or came through with. So it doesn't necessarily matter the dollar amount, it's the ratio. So if you're making $51,000 a year in income and you've got about $32,000 expenses, the question would be, what did you need 20 years later? So if it's 2003, what would you need in 2023 to be able to achieve a decent income? What is that dollar amount? What does that dollar amount look like? Well, in 2003, you would have thought every vehicle that you use, every calculator that you would have pulled up, whether it was Vanguard or Fidelity or Morgan Stanley, everyone would have said, hey, what you need in 2023 to be able to achieve or pay for the expenses associated with $32,000, $32,492 in 2003, you would need approximately $812,000. Again, what every calculator in 2003 would have told you was, in order for you to be able to maintain this lifestyle, you would need about $812,000. Only to then 20 years later hit 2023, based off inflation, to learn what you actually needed was 1.3 million.
Yes.
Again, I want to restate it because there's so much math here that it gets confusing. In 2003, you're making $51,000. You go to Vanguard, you go to Fidelity, and you put in these dollar amounts to determine, okay, this is what I'm making. These are my expenses. What do I need to put away in order to have enough income to be able to maintain this lifestyle? And what you learn in that calculator is you would want to have a nest egg worth about $812,000. Only to actually get to 2023 and learn that 812,000 needed to be 1.3 million. So what needed to happen was this annual income of 51,747 needed to look more like 86,000, and therefore you would have needed to accumulate a nest egg of more like 1.3 million.
Right.
But no one told us that. No one laid that out in detail. What they told us was, hey, based off the 4% rule, all you need is, and again, I'm not saying that this is a small number. What I'm saying is, based off the statistics that we just kind of walked through, so many people are headed back into the workforce. Why? Because they got into 2023 thinking they only need 812,000, only to learn that they actually needed 1.3 million.
If they got there at all.
Am I making, like, is that making sense? I don't know that I'm making sense to me, but because this is so critical to actually get. And that is, again, in 2003, what you thought you needed going into retirement turned out to be $400,000 less than what you actually needed. And so therefore, what do you do as a result? And just so you're clear, I'm not on the camera, and I don't know if I'm not supposed to be, but what do you do different to be able to make up for this number that was missed? You have to create more income. You have to involve or include multi-generational living. You have to now get out of the home that you finally paid off and move into something smaller, because this nest egg you thought you were building ended up needing to be about $500,000 more than what it actually was. And here's why I share this. If this dollar amount translates to now, meaning this is if you have $86,000 right now, if you put in this $86,000 based off the $54,000 expenses that you have right now, the calculator that you use is going to say you need 1.3 million in order to comfortably retire with the income that you currently have today. That's what every vehicle that you use from every financial institution that you deem as reputable, they are all saying the same thing. If you make $86,000 today, you need 1.3 million in your nest egg in order to be able to maintain this lifestyle. But what inflation is saying is in 2043, 20 years from now, what you thought, and I'll make this larger because I know it's lighter, what you thought was going to be 1.3 million in order to maintain this lifestyle is actually double. Is actually 2.4 million is what's required of you 20 years from now to maintain the current lifestyle of $86,000 a year, or $54,000 in expenses. Right. 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 The equation was flawed from the start. The equation that we used to go from here to here was wrong.
Yes.
And all we did was continue that equation from here. And we are thinking that somehow this dollar amount is going to get us to this point, and it will not. So what do you do different?
Oh, they said they can't hear me. Oh, maybe because I wasn't in the scene. I don't know how. Got to be an expert. Can't just willy-nilly jump in here and live stream these days, I guess. Okay, the point is what you're saying. I hope you guys can hear me now. Okay, they said yes. Okay, it was never enough to begin with. So what I was saying was, you now are at you started in 2003, and you are thinking that let's just say you're 2003, you're 21 years old, 25 years old, and you're taking this seriously, and you want to make sure that you have a retirement, right? Your parents watch this live stream and they're like, look, this is the new gospel. You got to have the money in. It has to be growing, always be compounding, get self-directed. We're starting our WTF moments today, right? So then 2003, that was you. You are going to retire in 2043, right?
Years.
Well, 43 because you're 25. Okay. So traditionally, it would be around 65, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So 2043 is when you're going to retire. You were living off of, starting in 2003, $32,000. You get to 2043 and you don't even have $32,000 a year. You don't even have that much, the equivalent of that anymore. You get to 2043 and you need $100,000 a year. You weren't even making that when you started, but that's what you need in order to survive, because we have no control over how inflated some of the living costs to live are. Healthcare, medicine. What is that? $1,200 for people who have diabetes just to get their medicine? It's crazy. We have to be prepared for these things because there is nobody coming to save us and there's no one protecting us from these things either. But there is a way. There is a way to do this. This sounds crazy. This sounds like, oh, these numbers are too big. And they could be if we don't have a plan, right? But if you start from the beginning, if you understand where to go, maybe it's time if we understand where the target is, right? We understand where we're aiming. Now we can make different decisions along the way. Now we can understand how our decisions impact where we land. And we're not surprised. We're not the victim. We are in control and we have leverage along the way. That's powerful, and that's taking your power back. That is truly being in control. So that's what that's the next part of this, is how to do that.
And it starts with perspective. It starts with understanding that, notice, at least hopefully what you're not getting from me is someone is at blame here. Because I don't think there's a finger to point. What I'm hoping you receive from me is just simply, hey, everything that we've been ingrained and educated and conditioned to understand is just flawed. The math is flawed. So now that we understand that the math is flawed, we need to take other steps to just simply correct the math. Whether or not you're able to hit $1.3 million in 20 years, to me, is not the point. It's knowing that, you know what, the number is 1.3 million and not 800,000. Just the fact alone that you know what, I am not one trying to hit some goal that I, again, what is it that you say all the time? If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Any road.
So what's even worse than that is enthusiastically going down this path, thinking you're doing what you're supposed to do, only to learn when you get to what you think is the finish line, you're learning that you're just in the middle of the game. Matter of fact, the game hasn't really even started yet. So
Yeah.
it's making sure that you understand how this process works, where this math comes from. And that's the first step before you can start taking whatever the actions needs to be able to do something different. It's understanding where you are, understanding that the math is flawed.
Yeah. The strategy, the whole equation is flawed. And that's the part we just need to have a nice service for this 4% rule and this whole Trinity study, because we need a new one and we need people to get super honest about these numbers, because this is impacting people on generational levels. This is where you thought that you were okay. You're just getting started. Your parents can't help you because they're trying to help themselves. And then they start to run out of money. And the whole point was they were trying to leave you something. And so, by the end of it, they're going, well, we did our best. And what do you say to that? Of course you did. Of course you did. But it doesn't help you when you're also trying to do your best, and you're probably 20 years, 30 years into your own strategy or lack of, right? Doesn't matter where, everybody's at a different place. This is not a judgment call. This is just to say that this has been happening for far too long, and this has been impacting generations. This has almost become a generational curse. And those who are trying, having access to this information, having access to income where it doesn't matter, having access to businesses, having access to wealth and passed on to you, is not the same thing as having to start from complete scratch and be the pioneer in your family to change what generations look like coming from you. And we are all, honestly, full transparency, We are all only one generation away from generational wealth. One. It will take one generation to focus on building generational wealth, and every generation after that can continue that. That's how powerful it is. Imagine if this was your grandparents who decided it was this generational poverty or this generational just barely making it is stopping with us. We are going to make that difference. We are going to do the math. We are going to do what is required. If that means we have to live a certain way so that our kids can have something different, so that our grandkids, our great grandkids, because if you think these numbers are astronomical in 40 years, imagine in 50 years, 60
Right.
years, 100 years.
These numbers are not getting smaller.
Right. And I promise you, minimum wage is not matching. It's not matching. So we have to have some other buffer. We have to have some other supplement in order to make sure that our kids, and their kids are going to be okay. Or there's going to be a completely different system that's going to have to start taking place in order to supplement for people. And we don't want to know what that is, because we know whatever it is not designed for us to win or get out of. And you don't have control when you're inside of those types of systems. No different than Social Security. There's hooks and caveats in there that don't make it make sense either. So for some people, I would just say that we need to know how to, first, we got to know how to get to the number. Now we got to know how to work backwards. So is that where we're going next? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do that.
Still full? Or
Yeah. Oh, wait, do we have questions? Because I think this might be a good time to. Oh, okay. You want to go ahead and put it up? Zate says, is this where a SKIA would be beneficial?
So I think short answer to that question is yes, possibly. But before you even bring up the word SKIA, how about we just list out what vehicles would? What vehicles do you know today? Let's take MPI out of it.
Yeah.
What vehicles do you know today can help bridge this gap? Is it your company's 401k? Or maybe it's not one vehicle. What are the vehicles that we have to merge together to help bridge this gap? Because the piece that I just want to acknowledge is the math is flawed. So if you are dumping in 30% into your company's 401k, is that company's 401k going to bridge this gap? Short answer to that question is probably no. If it's not the company's 401k, then what else maybe goes along with that? Is it real estate? How many doors do you need to bridge that gap?
I love this. Donnell and Angelique, got my second position HELOC in place. Thanks to you both. Need to reach out to you both on how to properly use this for SKIA. So ever so grateful for you both. We love to hear this, and we love to hear the feedback and the updates on how people are using the strategies that we're covering here on our channel.
And because obviously, to me, the best passive vehicle that you could possibly use to be able to build wealth while also doing other things is absolutely a SKIA. But is that the only answer? Because even the MPI calculator doesn't account for the inflation in the way we're kind of laying it out here today.
Yeah, you got to know the number.
Exactly. So it really is less about what's the vehicle, it's what's the number.
Yeah.
What is the percentage of your income that you need to put away today? What is the pay yourself first number?
Right.
And based off that pay yourself first number, then it's what is the vehicle that's going to help close that gap?
Right. So we got to know the number. What's the goal?
So
the goal, how we got to this number, though, you do have to go to the calculator.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but real quick though, because I don't know what's up. So this $86,000 that we're talking about here is, I'll make sure I get my wording right. Expenses, income, and expenses and income. So I was right. So this dollar amount right here is your current again, using the $86,000 as an example. You got this $86,000. This is that income. These are the expenses that you have. Based off this dollar amount or based off this scenario, what is it that you need to be able to hit this goal is the question, right?
Well, that's the goal in 2023. That's how it's normally done. But what is it that you're actually trying to hit?
Right.
So let's just say we're going to go, you want to retire early and you want to hit the goal for 2043. Well, you got to show them what the 2043 was.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. Yeah, so the cost of living to match for 2043 was 97,530.
Yep.
Yep. So if we're planning for 2023, we know that if the goal
2043. Planning from 2023 for 2043.
yeah. So if we're 25 and we are saying we want to retire by 45, then we need to know what that income is going to look like, and then what it would look like when we're 65, how much we would need, and what that could look like, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now we have those numbers in play. You guys got them? Yep. Okay. Good. Good. Taking notes today. Get your notebook. All right. So now we're going to go over to the calculator, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Definitely give us a thumbs up. And if you're new here, subscribe. If you're not new here and you haven't subscribed, please do that. We always forget to say stuff like that. And we're on YouTube, so we should.
And so I think I started this with, because it was the $15,000 annually was that number that I was trying to stay around. So I believe that's like $1,250 a month. And again, the question isn't whether or not this is a realistic dollar amount. It's just simply the math. The math is what the math is.
Yeah, I thought it was 1,300.
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, 97. There it is. So at age 25, from age 25, starting in 2023, from age 25 to age 45, so from 2023 to 2043, what does that math need to look like in order for you to be able to achieve that $2.4 million financial freedom number? And here's the thing about that $2.4 million financial freedom number. That is also based off the 4% rule. So what that's saying is if you have a traditional retirement account, then that traditional retirement account would need to have in it $2.4 million. Well, that's a traditional retirement account. What this is saying is if it's outside of a traditional retirement account, meaning you're not impacted by the 4% rule, what does it take for you to still be able to achieve that 97,000?
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
Because that's what inflation will equate is equal to your living expenses currently.
Right.
Same lifestyle.
Right. And if we wanted to achieve this dollar amount, though, inside of a traditional retirement account, can we just agree that we're talking about 3 times this number, which means it's 3 times this number? I mean, I can do that math. I just want to make sure what we're saying here is this is a secure compound interest account. The secure compound interest account, the way the income is generated inside of a vehicle like this is not based off the 4% rule. It's based off a percentage of what has grown in it. And so based off the fact that this is not the 4% rule isn't used inside of a vehicle like this. If we needed to use the 4% rule to say, hey, what would it look like inside of a traditional retirement account like an IRA or a 401k? It would easily be 3 times this number. 3 times this number is what's needed, which means the amount that you need to have inside of your account would need to be 3 times this number.
Right. In order for you to yield. And so if you're making $86,000 a year, because this is just a number I picked to do the example on. If you're making $86,000 a year, what is that, like $5,700 a month? And now you have to put in $1,300 3 times into your retirement account for it to be enough. No,
it's not realistic.
Doing that. Right. Nobody's doing that. But the point isn't to say that there's only one way and there's only one vehicle. That's not the point here. I really want people to understand that part. It's not the point. The point is to understand how to do this equation so that regardless of how much you make, you're not going, well, this is what I can afford to put away. Because
Right.
now you realize what it's costing you. Now you go backwards. So let's take them backwards. So this is how we got the number. That's the important part, right? Now we're going to go back to the vibe board and show how you do the math backwards. So this is now how you're going to go through, and I should have made like a little worksheet we could have gone through together. Next time we're going to do it all over again with a worksheet. You guys
And
in?
and in essence, what we're saying here is if yeah, I have it. If $86,000 a year is what you're currently making, and the objective is to get to a point where in 20 years you're able to achieve that $97,000 tax free for life, how much do you have to put away? And the way this I would say even this is currently structured incorrectly, because this is saying if you're using 70% of your expenses, another 12,000 for debts, what's left over, this 18% is what you would need to be able to put away. This is that $1,300 a month. This is the amount that you need to put away in order to be able to achieve that 97,000.
Right.
And I think this should be flip-flopped, meaning it should start here. What do you need? If $1,300 a month is it, $1,300 a month equates to this 15.6 or whatever that dollar amount is. The 18% of this income is what needs to be put away in order for you to hit that inflation-based number in 20 years. And what's left over is what you have to live off.
Right.
What you have left over is how you design your life around.
Yeah, let's say it's again, but slower. It's not, the rule is not 18%.
Right.
Just like the rule can't be 4%, right? The percentage is not the important part. You find the percentage based off of the number and how that number fits into your income. So now we know that the number was 97. We need to yield 97. That is our target. So now in order to do that, that number needs to be with the vehicle. Right? You choose a different vehicle, that number is going to change how much you got to put in. For a secure compound interest account with MPI, it would be $1,300, so $15,592, which means it's 18%.
Right.
So there's these rules of 70, 20, 10. This is why people are ending up broke and poor and they can't make it, because these flat rules sound good. They can be packaged and marketed to sound so easy to make it simple. Like, yes, I can do that 10% of my income, put it away, chip, gone. I can just put that. Matter of fact, I could put that as a rule from my bank account. Could just boop, 10% right out, because that makes me feel good. But it will make you feel angry to go 10, 20 years from now, knowing that you could have done something completely different, and you would have, because it mattered, right? To even do the 10%, it would have mattered enough by the time you got there and went, crap, I could have done something different. And now you can. Now we can start now at least, but now we can arm other people, younger people, with this information so that they can be prepared, because they're going to need to be prepared.
And I think we've been taught to, hey, what are your expenses? What are those debts? What's left over? We save. And again, that's where that 70, 20, 10 kind of came into play, right? It was, what's your expenses? What are those debts? And what are you now, what's left over? What are you going to save? And I believe, and I think what Angelique is trying to articulate here is we need to kind of just flip how this process starts. Meaning it's first, what is your number? What is it that you need to put away? What is the savings?
Right.
What is the savings?
Yeah.
And everything that's left over, you learn to live off that.
Right.
You start first with what is that dollar amount we need to put away. So if you're 25 and your income is increasing as you go from 25 through your career, through whatever that company is, that what starts first is what is it you're putting away? What is that dollar amount you're having to put away? And you learn to live off everything else. And if the rest of it is broken out in between expenses and debts, then that's fine. But the moral of the story is we first start with what is that savings amount?
Right.
In this case, from year 2023 to 2043, yes, it's based off a 20-year time horizon. But that time horizon is solely based off what you think that goal is and however long you think it's going to take you there. I think in this example, yes, we're using a 20-year time horizon, but it's not a one size fits all type process either.
Yeah, we should add Frankie to all of our scenes now so that people can hear her when she asks the question. She's advocating for the chat and bringing up some questions, so that's good. But it'd probably be good if you pop it up though, so they can see that their questions being
Oh,
answered.
I'm sorry.
Maybe.
I am assuming that everyone can hear Frankie.
No, they
So
can.
I get
We
it. So
can
I'm
hear her.
responding to a question that no one ever heard. So
Yeah.
the question was, is this based off a 20-year time horizon? Meaning, is the example that we put up based off a 20-year time horizon? And the short answer to that question is yes, it is. But it's really less about the time horizon and more about what is that goal. And it's focusing your attention on what is the savings goal. Let's start there. It starts with pay yourself first before you pay a bill, before you, hey, me and my wife are getting married and our next objective is to purchase this home. No, it's not. My wife and I, we're getting married. Our first objective is to understand what is that savings number.
Oof. And the conversations and the way that you would change the conversations you're having when you're dating somebody to say, what is your number, right? What's your number and what's your plan?
And based off that savings number, we agree that, okay, this is the path that we're going down. This is the savings number that we're focused on hitting. And now what's left over?
Right.
Based off what's left over, hey, we may not be able to go identify or access that home that we were wanting to whatever that size of home we were looking to purchase. We may or may not be able to do that.
But we see it differently now, so it doesn't mean as much to us. We're not trying to fill a hole to make it look like we have enough, to make it look like we're hitting a lifestyle. We know that we are winning the game because we are outrunning everybody. Come over to our apartment. Come over to our condo. We don't care. We do not care the size of house that you just bought because look at the size of our future.
Our
That's
objective
a
is to
whole
put away
different
this
game.
$1,300 a month
That's
so that
right.
we can hit our $97,000 goal. And what's left over is what we're using to purchase those incidentals. And yeah, the student loan debt will still be there. The velocity banking requirements will still be there. But we focus our attention first on paying ourselves first, putting
That's
ourselves
right.
in a position such that we can start producing this secure compound interest account, or whether it's putting more money into our 401k, or we're going to buy X amount of rentals to be able to, whatever it is we're going to do to bridge that gap, we do. But the sentiment is we're focused on the savings part first. We're focusing on paying ourselves first. And then whatever's left over, we do everything else.
April has a good. Yeah, go
Go
ahead and
for it.
put it up. I just want to turbocharge everything you're saying. I want to buy a medical practice and use the numbers from the business to save for my own retirement. What do you think, Donnell?
Again, it goes back to what does that math say? Because I agree with you. It's leveraging the home, leveraging our business, leveraging the people in the home to be able to put ourselves in a position such that we can hit what we pay ourselves first. We
Right.
focus on paying ourselves first. Notice how many times did I mention debt free during this live? How about zero?
Right.
Because it is not about debt free. It is not about freeing up cash flow. It is paying yourself first. And so what that means is before we even get into that situation, we have to put ourselves in a position such that we can identify and focus on whatever that savings goal is.
And I just want to reiterate that the majority of people who do not have a home, the majority of people who have had to become homeless are technically debt free. Let that sink in. And it is really difficult to get yourself out of a hole like that when you need to have capital and you need to have leverage and you need to have options. But you cannot tell somebody in that type of situation that the reason why I'm in this situation is because I put all of my money at becoming debt free, at staying debt free. And I'm not saying go get in debt and then not pay out your debt. What I'm saying though is that when you have this mindset, you start to think about things a little bit differently. You start to think about the things that you are buying, because the stuff and the things that get us in all of that debt A lot of times it is stuff and things. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's medical.
Right.
Sometimes, there's a lot of reasons.
Circumstances present themselves that we can't
Right.
control.
But
This is
having
identifying
leverage,
the ones that we can. Go ahead.
that's right. Having leverage matters greatly. I was talking to somebody today who was inside of the Facebook group, and he had posted up his numbers for Velocity Banking, and he was like, "Look, this is my equation, and I just want more confidence in these first few steps that I'm taking," and I was like, "Okay, well, send me your worksheet." So I'm going over his worksheet, and I go, "Gosh, you've got a nice amount of equity. You've got your numbers actually look like you've got leverage. So even though you've got a significant amount of debt, you have leverage that you can work with. And that is how he's going to get himself in a better situation. He's got leverage. But in the meantime, if he were to wait until he was completely debt free, he even said it. He was like, about the timeline for him to become completely debt free, he'll have weddings. His daughters will be hitting the ages of, they'll be getting married, and now he's got weddings to pay for. So does that mean he'll just get right back into debt?
That's exactly what that means.
Or do you strategize differently now so that you have leverage for when those things happen? And on top of that, instead of them coming up with the Pinterest boards and "Daddy, I want my princess moment," right? And they're programmed, and you want them to have that, and this becomes a goal. Instead, you are now having a different conversation with them. And what you're handing them is a legacy. What you are handing them is a machine that will print money for them. This is a different type of marriage, right? This is a different type of wedding that they will have when they would be more than happy to go to the courthouse and not spend money like that, because they get it now. Because it is not about a one day for them. It is not about a $10,000 dress for them. They already understand that would be what would feed an industry. That would not be what would feed their future. It's different. And I hope that's the gift that we give to every family who is involved or watches us or shows up to spend time with us, because we know that time is the most valuable asset that we have.
So here's the thing. I go back to my original question around, if a secure compound interest account isn't the answer to achieve this goal. Again, once you've identified what your savings goal is, if it's not a secure compound interest account, I would honestly like to know, then what is it? Because I believe in the Burr method.
Yeah.
I believe in, the rinse and repeat around buying properties and using those properties to be able to build wealth. I am all for it. But outside of that, what else is there? Especially as it relates to hitting the goal around this inflation number. Because again, every vehicle you're using, every financial institution you talk to, all are based around the same concept. And that is this Trinity study from 1998 that was said that says, hey, this is the amount that you can take out of your retirement account and not run out of money. Hopefully what you've learned today is that dollar amount that you're planning for 20 years, 15 years, 30 years, 45 years into the future is short. And it's not short by a small amount, it's short by a significant amount. So that equation that we've been using, we have to reassess, readjust that equation to meet what inflation is going to look like in that 20, 30, 45 year period. And based off what that new dollar amount is, the question is now, how do you work backwards to be able to achieve that goal for the future? And it is not a one size fits all. It may be 18% for me, it may be 32% for you. I don't know. The bottom line is, regardless of what that number is, what are those vehicles that are available to you right now today for you to be able to bridge that gap?
And feel like it's enough. That's the other part, is we make decisions based off of what we feel like is enough, what we feel like is success, what we feel like is means that if we are making six figures, we're living that six-figure life because this is the American dream and we all deserve it, right? And what's not a part of the American dream anymore is that retirement piece. It's the piece that says when you have to, whether you choose to or you have to, stop trading your time for money, that you are going to be okay. And we just don't have security like that anymore, to include Social Security. We are not promised that. We have made promises with this system, but we're not guaranteed it's going to be there or that the same rules will apply. We have to start banding together. And so what I hope is that showing this equation today, showing how to find this number, that a lot of people are going to do this math for themselves. And I would love to know if anybody who's watching has been doing this on their own with their own math. So what is your percentage? Like what did that come up to for you? Like what's the percentage of the number that you have to go with? If you want us to find it right now, maybe we can just show it in the chat and we'll find it for you right now. Here's the point. When I did this with Justin, our oldest, right? And I was showing him this and I was like, okay, I'm going to explain it to you and you tell me if you get, like, you say it back to me. That way I know what I'm saying sounds coherent, because I'm so frustrated and I want to get it out so fast. I may just not even make sense. So I had to explain it a couple of times and he asked a lot of questions. But in the end, after we took out the percentage that he would need, right? He goes, how am I supposed to live off of that? And actually, that was a question he asked to himself, because the first thing he said was, he sat there silent for a while. And the first thing he said was, I can already tell you that I'm starting this with a lack mentality, because the first thought I had was, how am I supposed to live off of that amount? He said, but I understand that's not the equation. That's not the exercise here, which that's like growth, right? For him to even like be able to immediately admit that and identify that was pretty dope. But what he was saying was, instead of asking like, how can I make more money? How can I structure differently? He goes, because if I'm wanting to buy my own house, if I'm wanting to pay my own bills, if I had 4 other people that were on the same goal as me, this amount would be enough for me to live. This amount would be enough for me to be happy, even if I couldn't make more to start off, right? I could get started knowing that I'm going to hit my goal, and it would feel different to have roommates. It would feel different to make some of these decisions, because if they got it too, then we're in the boat together. This is going to help our boat go faster. And I mean, on that note, that's a good segue, but go ahead.
Well, and I don't know if this will make sense or not, but I think where I'm trending, I was not on board with this before, but I think this is where that multi-generational living comes into play. I believe that this is really more about redefining what the family bank is.
Right.
I think it's less about banking on yourself. And I think it is really more about really fully designing what a family bank looks like.
Yes.
Because instead of us, because again, the way I grew up, the way you grew up, it was, hey, you get kicked out of the house and you go fend for yourself and you figure this thing out. Mm-hmm. Where we're headed with inflation, where we're headed with real estate, I do not believe it is reasonable to expect those 18, those 22, those 24-year-olds to go out there and figure it out. I think this is where this family bank concept really needs to be put into play, because I think together we can mathematically come up with that number supposed to be. And if we work cohesively together, meaning we all play a role, that we all have this dollar amount, we all have expectations inside of this equation, we can absolutely get to this machine, fund this machine enough to where it can actually produce and sustain this lifestyle for generations to come. That one generation from a generational wealth, you are spot on. But so why shouldn't it start with us?
Right.
And so I think it's redefining. So while you're figuring out your savings number, it is also understanding what it means to truly have a family bank. We are not talking about infinite banking here. What we're talking about is understanding your numbers so that you can actually build that savings goal, and you can cohesively work on that savings goal together. And I think that's a different conversation.
All right. So the worksheet, then we'll do this next week, probably. We might have a guest on Sunday, but we might not. So maybe we could do it on Sunday. The worksheet would be, because people are asking in the chat, how do you find this percentage for you? So you've got to know, one, you want to just write it on the Vibe board.
I'd love to write. I'm the greatest at writing.
Well, no, we really all love that your handwriting's been getting so much better, right, guys? Right, guys? We we really do.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
No, it's you can do this real quick. It's
I
not
know
that
I
big of a
can.
deal. Yeah. Just
What am I writing though?
we're gonna write down the steps for finding this number. So first you got to know your income, right? You got to know which is, if you've downloaded our Velocity banking sheet, then you'll know these numbers already. Your expenses, your living expenses, like how much it's costing you to live. So your annual income, your annual expenses, that's the best way. Well, right, for this one, you don't need to know the debts. On the worksheet you do.
And the reason I'm throwing this in here is because those debts have their own monthly expense amount as well. So it's just making sure we incorporate both, whatever the monthly expense amount is associated with those debts, as well as the normal cable bill, cell phone bill, stuff like that, the normal expenses. That's the only reason I'm
Yeah.
highlighting
Okay.
that.
Well, that's fair. All right. Okay. So then you would need to have those two numbers. Now you'll go over to the inflation. So calculator.net. You could just go to calculator.net and do the inflation calculator. And now you put in your income and see what the inflation calculator says it will be. Are you there already?
No, 'cause it's going to take me a while to get there.
Oh, it's all good. Well, they can go to it. Maybe we can put up a banner for calculator.net, or I can probably screen share it actually.
Okay.
Well, I have the wheel loaded up right now.
No problem. But calculator.net.
Yeah, maybe I can just like switch. Oh, yeah, here's what I can do.
I think I'm there. Inflation calculator, right?
Yeah, oh, let me take that off. Okay, yeah. So inflation calculator, right? Yep, this is it. This is exactly it. So then you put in your figures. So if you want to go forward, yep. So it's here in 2023. Well, that's if you want to go backwards or forwards. Just use the middle one.
Yep. The Ford flat rate.
Yep. And so go whatever your expenses are, right? Which still is not, this is still using the 3%, which we know some industries don't use this, but this is still better than what these other calculators use.
And so if we
you
use the
say,
54,000 from the
that's right.
$86,000 income example. Sorry. Too many zeros. There we go.
Yep. And our example was 20 years.
Come on.
And you hit calculate. 97,530. See the up at the top? You're gonna have to circle it for them so
Yeah.
they can
I was
see it
getting there.
faster.
So right here. So the 54,000,
Chop chop.
I can make it bigger as well.
Yeah, so that's how we found that. So that's how you find that number, okay? So then, but this is gonna have to be with your income, your expenses. So then you go and you find your tool. Whatever your tool is, let's say you don't want to use a secure compound interest account. I don't know why, because then you're just going to have a life insurance expense on top of that. But whatever the vehicle that you want to use, you can use this calculator by going to selfdirected.info, get access to this calculator. And this is how you keep putting in the numbers, the monthly contribution, put your age in, right? And then put the monthly contributions in until you hit that number. That will tell you what it is that you need to do. Now you go backwards, 1,300 for 20 years. What is that per year that you'll need to put in for 20 years? And that's how you get that number. But 1,300 is what you're then going to say, what's the percentage of that to your income, right?
Right.
whatever that number is for you. It could be 1,300, it could be a different number. Whatever that number is for you, that's the number and how you find your percentage.
So again,
are
what
we
is your
all-
total expenses? What are your total expenses? Go to calculator.net, throw in your total expenses already kind of set up there for the 3% inflation rate. And what's the number of years? What's your time horizon? Is it 20 years? Is it 30 years? What is your time horizon? So the expenses, the inflation rate, the time horizon, that calculates what that dollar amount, what that expense dollar amount looks like 20 years from now. So
Right.
based off what that dollar amount looks like 20 years from now, again, it doesn't, we're using a secure compound interest account because mathematically that makes sense. But regardless of what that vehicle is, what is it going to take for you to achieve $97,000 in income? I would prefer tax-free, but because I don't think that a calculator, the calculator.net is assuming tax-free income. But this is based off $97,000 tax-free for the rest of your life.
Right.
What is it going to take for you to be able to achieve that, regardless of what the vehicle is? In this case, it's $1,300 inside of a secure compound interest account. I go back to, if we were talking about a traditional retirement plan, you would have to multiply this number by 3, which means you would have to multiply this number by 3 in order to achieve that goal. Is that realistic? I'm not saying that it's not. But if it's realistic for you, then you work backwards from there. So if it's $97,000 is a goal, it takes me $1,300 a month to be able to achieve it. $1,300 a month times 12 is X amount of dollars, 16 grand or 15,600 or whatever that dollar amount is. Based off my income, I subtract 15,600 from my income. That tells me, or not subtract. I divide 15,600 by my income. That's the percentage of savings that I need. And so as I'm making more money throughout my career, if I maintain that same percentage rate, I actually am able to hit my goal maybe even faster. But how about this? Let's say you can't hit the goal. Let's say the goal may be unattainable, unrealistic. Wouldn't it be better to fall as close to that goal as possible versus where the Vanguard calculator is telling you where you need to live? Meaning going back to that 1.3 million compared to 800,000, which is better? Getting as close as I possibly can to 1.3 million or falling short of that 854,000, whatever that dollar amount is? I still would argue that falling forward or failing forward meaning getting as close as possible as you can to this goal is still better than the alternative.
Amen. Well, we have a question from April, and we can address this real quick. Do you have it up for us, Frankie? Okay, cool. She's got a question, and I want to remind everyone, it's probably a great time to remind everyone that this is not financial advice. This is an educational channel. And we have to say that because we don't give financial advice. We're here to help you make your own financial decisions with confidence because you understand this stuff. That's really what it is. And so, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the objective is just to peel the layers back. Because again, I believe the formula is flawed. The formula that we've been educated on all of our life to determine what the retirement dollar amount should be, I just believe the formula is flawed. Where did I come up with that conclusion? Well, if you do the math, do the math on what 20 years ago, the $86,000 or whatever that income was 20 years ago and what it looks like today, mathematically it says, hey, we would have fallen short several hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to hit our income goal. So what that tells me is 20 years from today, we're going to run into the same situation unless we better understand this equation. And what the equation tells me is rather than we focus on what's left over to save, it's we pay ourselves first. We put ourselves in a position now to understand what is that savings dollar amount we need today, and we learn to live off the rest. And I personally do not care what that rest dollar amount is, as long as you pay yourself first. So as it relates to this question, and Angelique is absolutely correct. I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is simply peeling back the layers, pulling back the curtain on what we should already know. the question you
Yeah.
have to, a better question to ask yourself is, why don't we already know? Who benefits from us wallowing in this 4% rule? Who benefits from us thinking, as long as I do what my employer allows me to do to be able to get to whatever that goal is Fidelity says that I need, who benefits from me not knowing that there's a better way? Who benefits from me not knowing maybe the steps that I'm taking currently with my current employer's plan isn't enough? Who benefits? So I want to use a PLOC to turbo charge. Hey, did we already go this buy stocks to pay monthly dividends? All of that is good stuff. Auto deposit the dividends into a SKIA. So one piece that I am not seeing in there is the tax implication on the dividends that you're using to be able to fund your SKIA, but it all makes sense. This is similar to what most of my, I have a large population of day traders. Large populations who take their day trading very, very seriously. And what I've been trying to educate them on, so I'll share with you, April, the same thing, is you skim off the top. You pay yourself first. Do not allow your dividends to reinvest those dividends into the same risk-based, stock-based market that you are doing your daily trading in. Move that money into a vehicle that is more secure. So what vehicles do you know today that are more secure? Okay, maybe it's a high yield savings account. Is that sufficient? What are those vehicles that you can move that money into? If it's not a secure compound interest account, then what is it? So moving skimming off the top and moving a certain percentage. And matter of fact, we've kind of identified a way to determine what that percentage should be. Maybe you take that percentage and you're dumping that into your secure compound interest account so that you can hit your goal. And again, put yourself in a position to where you don't need any of those vehicles to be able to hit your goal.
Yep. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Does the MPI calculator take into account future inflation? It does not. Is that 97,000 now in now dollars for or for adjusted inflation? It is absolutely now dollars, and that's why this is very important. Because that's now dollars, how do you compensate for inflation even in that vehicle? The way you compensate for inflation in the MPI calculator is by understanding the percentage. What is the percent that you're required to save? And as you make more income, note that percentage changes. So if you keep the same percentage, so let's say whatever your income is, you're putting away, you have determined that you have to put away 18%. The key is, as you're making more money, as your career progresses, you continue that 18%.
Well,
if you're putting in that 18% into this vehicle, that will compensate for inflation inside the vehicle.
I think he also might have missed the part about where the target is. Mm-hmm. So we're saying, yes, that's in today's dollars, but that's not in today's goal. Right. That's the important. You want to just show that one more time? Because I think this is the part. I don't want anyone to miss this part. This is the important piece. So I think it's right above that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got it here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'll make it this large.
Why does this do this? Okay.
Or are you putting the whole board? Tell me what you're showing now.
No. Okay. Here we go. I think we're good.
Yep. So.
Wait. This is showing something different. This is showing something different on all these.
So, and this is a great way to end it.
Okay, let's see if it'll stay.
Yep.
Okay, maybe it'll stay now. Can you guys see the vibe board?
I can.
Okay, good. Okay,
all right.
There we go.
And I think you worded it very, very well. It is not in that 97,000 is not in today's numbers. It's in what tomorrow's number would look like. And
right.
So
that was Miko, right? That you put up?
Yeah, that was Miko.
Okay.
And so this $86,000 that you're making and that $54,000 in expenses, what does, if you using traditional retirement planning, what this 1.3 million is saying, is it's saying in order for you to achieve or be able to maintain this lifestyle, be able to pay for these expenses, you need at least 1.3 million. But what we've determined is, in 20 years, so from 2023 to 2043, this 1.35 million actually needs to look more like 2.4 million in traditional retirement standards. That 2.4 million is how you would be able to achieve what $97,000 in 20 years would look like under the same circumstances. So we are focused on the tomorrow number, meaning
Right.
in order to maintain this lifestyle, the tomorrow number is $97,000. How do we achieve this $97,000 in 20 years? So it is compensating for inflation from that perspective, meaning the number that we are showing in the calculator is based off putting away $1,300 a month, which would help us to achieve in 20 years $97,000. So the tomorrow number compensates for what inflation needs to be based off this equation.
Yeah. And there are differences in what people qualify for. So
Yes.
there are limits and there are caps here, and there are other factors involved. So we can't just say you can put whatever you want in
Right.
there.
This is not a one size fits all.
Right.
What 25-year-old can put away $1,300 a month? Let's start there.
Right, or qualify for the amount of insurance that $1,300 a month would buy. But the
Right.
point is that you have an idea of what needs to be going in and how this needs to be growing. The other point of this is this doesn't mean that you cannot become a family bank. This doesn't mean that they couldn't be contributing to a policy from somebody else. This doesn't mean that this couldn't be a policy that's rolled up under a trust that everybody is pitching into because they can't do their own, right?
Right.
But there is somebody who does qualify. They just don't have the money because they don't have the space in their income to be able to do it. So maybe that's how it happens. We've shown examples of how people have gone in, like the mother and daughter example. We've gone over, matter of fact, we've been over a couple of examples
few
of how, of building a family bank and leveraging in this way.
And here's the piece for me. This is less about, because what I don't want to do is build in more excuses. Meaning I'm 25 years old, $1,300 a month, that's not realistic. The point isn't, hey, this is your only action required in order for you to be no, it's understanding, like, did you know that the math was even this steep? Did you know that $1,300 a month was even the requirement just to maintain where you are? Did you know that? Okay, now that you know that, I can't be frivolous with my cash. I can't be frivolous with that promotion that I get next year because I need to put myself in a better position to be able to maintain or hit the savings goal.
Right.
It starts with the savings goal first. It starts with paying yourself first. It is less about the 1,300. It's more about, now I understand what the math looks like. Now I understand that I have to focus on me first before I buy that BMW. I have to focus on me first before I get that big screen TV, so that at a minimum, I'm at least taking the right actions to be able to hit the goal, because now I better understand what it looks like. Not I'm frivolously running around here spending this excess cash that I thought I had because this goal was easily attainable, or I didn't plan at all to be able to hit a goal in retirement because I assume I just deal with it when I'm 35, like my parents did.
Yeah, because money doesn't buy you happiness.
Exactly. So YOLO. So it's having a better understanding of what this math looks like so that you can make better decisions.
Yeah, and it is a mindset thing because we can justify anything. We can say that when we get bonuses, we can say that we will invest our side hustle money. We can say all of these things, but we've already made it a standard and we've already justified not paying ourselves first and not putting this as a priority above everything else. If you can't take care of, this is the oxygen mask, right? If you can't take care of you, you can't take care of anybody else. And if you can't take care of you, how do you, and you're not, this isn't a recipe for your family, and you're not promoting this like a value, a moral, a code that you guys follow as a family, then how are you going to expect that if you can't take care of you, somebody else can start taking care of you? Come on now. This is happening across the nation where people are getting to a point and they go, oh, well, I guess I ran out. So I had some kids. Who's going to take care of me? I had somebody here has to be able to help me out because I'm at the end of my rope and now this is what I have going on. And the kids are like, I'm out here trying to survive. What are you talking about? Can I take care of you? I can barely take care of me. And it's not that it's wrong to be in that position. It's just a fact. And we have the opportunity right now to get really serious about making different decisions. That's really what this is about. This isn't about saying there's only one way to get there, except for there is a better way to do the math. You cannot get here if you are doing it the math different ways. If you're doing
4% rule.
or 70 20 10,
Right.
that is not going to equal the same plate. That is a different road, and if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, and you'll just have to find out where you ended up. Do you want to play F around and find out? That's exactly what everyone's been doing. And they find out where they've landed at the very end. What we're saying is, after seeing this has to become a new standard. This has to become the new rule for 2024. There cannot be any other sacrifices beyond this. There cannot be any other justifications. This has to be the new rule. 2020 going for 4% rule is completely out. It's dead. It's gone. This is the new standard, and everyone should be listening to how to do this, or at least doing the math so that they can see the difference that this would make.
And where do you start? You start with pay yourself first.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no other response other than simply pay yourself first.
Yeah, I see some comments, especially about the mother and daughter video, and I think that Family Bank woke some people up because you were hearing about it in your meetings, right? Mm-hmm. Just in terms of, hold on a second, I had a meeting with you, but let me get my mom on the phone. Let me bring her into this meeting. Let me get my dad into this meeting. Let me get my kids into this meeting. We got people who are educating their kids now, going, okay, how could we? Hold on a second. I was just going to tell you all about this later, but if we were to really think about this and strategize together, what is it that we actually could achieve if we were to go in together? And there are ways to protect yourself in doing this, because we get that this is trust and not everybody has that kind of relationship with their family. However, everybody has to survive. And I think everybody can get on board with that. So we're also going to be talking to some people on that, how to protect yourself, coming up in some of our streams. But I want to, before we get too late in here, I want to give away the votes.
Let's go.
Okay. All right. Where we are at. Okay. Here we go. You can't see it?
There it is. It looks like it needs to be reset.
All right. No, I never started it this time. So here we go.
I better win something this time.
You got to say
Right.
Carol Edward. Whoop, whoop.
So, Carol, if you wouldn't mind, you can either text us. I'm sure we'll throw the number up here in a minute, but you can text us to let us know your information, what your address is, name, address, and we will send this information over to you. We are not soliciting you for any other information. So, Carol, just make sure you identify in the text message that you send that you are a winner of the boat, and we will make sure we get this over to you. Now, timing-wise varies. We would like to be able to get this out to you as quickly as possible, but I do know timing varies as to when we will get this vote to you, but we will get there. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Yeah, it's because I'm slow. Okay.
No, it's we. It's out of you.
It's because we have to go down there and do it, and they wouldn't pick it up. But now I found a way for them to pick it up, so we'll be faster.
In the wheel.
We got to tell everybody. We got to explain now. All right, here we go. All right.
Where's the music?
Dalai Lama. You know what? We just haven't done this in a minute. So can we just have some fun?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right, Dalai Lama, tell us where to send your boat. Here we go.
Thank you, dear. I was looking forward to.
Oh no. Can't. We can't.
The Dalai Lama gets 2 votes. Go play the lottery, brother.
Who is it? Geraldine Stevens.
So Geraldine, Dalai Lama, and what was the first one? Carol. What's the last name?
Edward.
Carol Edward.
Edward.
Thank you. There we go. Carol Edward. Well done. Well done.
I didn't hear you, Frankie. You said one more. Let's do it. Frankie said, we're not done yet. Nathan, I think Nathan already got a boat.
Nathan got a boat.
Golly. How to invest for yourself. We don't know your real name, so now we about to learn today.
And remember, text the number below with your name, phone number, and the handle that was used to be able to win this boat, and we will absolutely get those out to you. We've got, was it 4 winners so far?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
awesome. That's awesome. Well done, ladies and gentlemen.
Well done. All right. Yeah.
So it sounds like Nathan just received his boat. So again, you've already gotten one. We can actually get you another one if you want another one. But the bottom line is you did receive the one that we had sent out early, and I know it took us a while to get there. We've been off the air a few times sporadically, so my apologies for that, because a lot of that was me. But I think we've got a handle on things now. So
Yeah.
again,
And
if
and he got me sick,
I
so it
did,
really
I did.
was him the
That was
whole
my
way.
gift. That was my gift to you.
Yeah. Just want
You're
everyone to know.
welcome. You're welcome. What's a boat,
Oh,
sweetheart?
well, hold on a second. The boat is just a symbol. But the boat is a symbol, and I think it's a good reminder, because this is a great stream to remind yourself why this question is so important. Because
Will it
what
make
we
the boat go
haven't
faster?
what we haven't said this entire stream is essentially the question that you will be asking yourself once you have the proper goal is, will it make every decision that you make, will it make the boat go faster? Matter of fact, I'm gonna just run it through so that we can kind of explain to everybody what this boat is and just have a refresher. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to send us home too.
Yeah. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with 2 obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could, or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over. All right, all right. Well, we so that's what the boats are about. It's just a visual reminder to help, something that you can see, and we like for you to have that in your home. I don't have mine near me in here, but that's what they are right there. Yep. And we give them away because we want you to have this symbol in your home to be able to ask yourself when you see it, to remind you, does this help will it make the boat go faster? And it's become a mantra inside of our home and our family. It's become a mantra inside of our team. Sometimes it's just as simple as saying, why does this need to happen? Because it helps the boat go faster. And boom, conversation over. Because if that's true.
I think that was directly our team. I think that was directly pointed at me.
Well, you're the team right now. It's just me and you. But I think the conversation of why does this need to happen?
Right, because I don't understand why this needs to happen.
Oh, yeah, a lot. You do ask that, yeah. And the concept sometimes means that this is something that I understand more so than you do. So if I say, because this helps the boat go faster, then you don't have to have the full understanding of what it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But even for our kids, sometimes we have to say, why is this so important to you? And for them, they're going, because in the way that I see it, this helps my boat go faster. And sometimes we can say then, okay, well, that's a valid position. So help us understand then how it does, because some of the decisions that this rowing team had to make, did partying all night with their friends help their boat go faster? No, it would help them, make them have poor performance for practice, right? Poor performance, bad habits. This isn't perfect, but it is a mantra and it is a good rule to go by. And so this fits very well in with coming up with a new standard for 2024 and beyond, and just saying we are not going to ask the question of how much is left over. We are going to ask the question of how much will make my boat go faster? How much do I need to pay myself first, starting today, so that I know where I'm going. I know where my boat is going to go, and I know when it's going to get there. That's the important part.
That's it. 4% rule is dead. 70-20-30, 70-20-10, dead. It is understanding what is your savings goal. Understanding what is that dollar amount you need to achieve to be able to hit that savings goal. And then you work backwards from there. It is pay yourself first. I think you're spot on with that. And I think on that note, let's get out of here, sweetheart.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thanks to Pinnacle for super chat.
Whoa.
Yeah, we got a super chat. Look at us. Got it for soup last time. Now we got it for value. And you're absolutely right. And on that note, we like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
you can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
That's right. So stay focused.
Stay connected.
Stay tuned.
Stay protected.
My name is Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And I'm trying to find the outro. Hold on one second. That was just, you should have, hold on. Hold on. Wait, I don't want to end. Yeah, no, I gotta find the, hold on. It's gonna be here, guys. Okay, we're ready. And take.
And scene.
And scene. Okay. All right. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Stay focused.
Stay protected.
Stay tuned.
Stay connected.
Okay. I'm with it now. Boop. My name's Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
get self-directed.
All right. And to do that, we have free resources. So stick around and we'll show you how to get them. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
self-directed.